We should note, Kristen, I don't want to overstate Trump's friendliness and genial attitude at this press conference, because this weekend ABC News agreed to pay $16 million, including legal fees, to settle a defamation lawsuit brought by Trump against the network and their anchor, George Stephanopoulos. And that obviously will not be the end of this campaign against the media, a legal campaign against the media. We heard him go after many other news outlets today. Take a listen. This is wildly ridiculous.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind here is that Donald Trump feels like he won. I mean, this weekend, by having a settlement with ABC, one that many people did not think was going to come to fruition. They thought that this would end up in court, or that it would certainly not be a settlement in which ABC paid $16 million and issued a public apology, which was part of this, has been a situation which has empowered and emboldened Donald.
I understand that the jury's reached a verdict. Is that correct?
Correct. Pardon me?
I said I understand you all have reached a verdict.
We have.
All right. You have the verdict form with you?
I do.
Can you hand that to the bailiff, please?
In the Circuit Court of the 14th Judicial Circuit in Fort Bay County, Florida, case number 22-608CA, Zachary Young, plaintiff versus Cable News Network, Inc., defendant. Verdict form number 1. Do you find by the greater weight of the evidence that defendant CNN committed defamation per se against plaintiff Zachary Young? Yes.
So, here's what happened. CNN just got hit with a defamation ruling by a jury. It's all because they accused a U.S. Navy veteran, Zachary Young, of smuggling refugees out of Afghanistan on the black market. This aired on Jake Tapper's show, but it turns out the story wasn't true. Let's get into what actually went down.
Now, a Florida jury has found CNN guilty of defamation more than 2 years after a security contractor sued the network for a report they did on the high costs of evacuating people from Afghanistan. In that November 2021 report, CNN described Navy veteran Zachary Young's work evacuating Afghans after the Taliban retook power 3 months prior. The network alleged he quoted high prices to evacuate people who were in fear of their lives. Young argued his reputation and business were destroyed after the network showed his face on screen during their report on high fees and a black market related to smuggling desperate Afghans out of the country. And the jury agreed. They concluded that the network's report was materially false and made with negligence. Young was awarded $5 million for lost business opportunities. The jury also awarded punitive damages. Now, that amount won't be decided until after jurors hear testimony about CNN's financial value.
All right, here's what's going on. CNN has been found guilty of defamation, and now they've got to pay up big time. A jury ruled in favor of U.S. Navy veteran Zachary Young, awarding him $4 million for lost earnings and $1 million for personal damages like pain and suffering. On top of that, the jury decided punitive damages are warranted, so now they're moving into the next phase to figure out how much more CNN will have to pay. Here's the kicker. CNN's lawyers are already complaining, saying the additional damages would financially harm the company and interfere with their ability to report the news. Honestly, it's kind of ironic. If anything, this should motivate them to be more careful with their reporting. Let's see how this all plays out. What do you think about the situation?
Do you find by the greater weight of the evidence that defendant CNN committed defamation per se against plaintiff Zachary Young? Yes. Number 2, do you find by the greater weight of the evidence that defendant CNN committed defamation by implication against plaintiff Zachary Young? Yes. Number 3, what is the total amount of plaintiff Zachary Young's damages for both lost earnings in the past and for the loss of his earning capacity in the future, reduced by the amount that plaintiff could have earned from comparable employment? $4 million. Number 4, what is the total amount of plaintiff Zachary Young's damages for pain and suffering, mental anguish, inconvenience, injury to reputation, and loss of capacity for the enjoyment of life that he sustained in the past and that he has sustained for the future? $1 million. Number 5, do you find by clear and convincing evidence that punitive damages are warranted against defendant CNN? Yes.
You heard General Young, plaintiff's expert, testify, and he kind of made this offhand comment. I thought it was very interesting. He said he was watching the coverage of the wildfires in Los Angeles, which are really heartbreaking. And he said that CNN's coverage was outstanding. And he wasn't wrong. Because when natural disasters break out, CNN is there. And that's hurricanes, that's wildfires, that's earthquakes. When conflicts erupt, like some of the ones we've heard in this case, CNN's there. And providing all of that content, that really important content's expensive. But it has a really tremendous value because we as Americans need to understand what our fellow Americans are going through if they're in California or if they're on the Gulf Coast and get hit by a hurricane, or if there's an earthquake in Northern California, or if there's a war in Ukraine. All those things are really valuable. So you've made a decision that CNN's liable, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a reasonable path forward. So over the next few hours, and I hope it doesn't take that long, you're going to hear about CNN's net worth. And you're going to see that the net worth of the company is actually in a subtle decline. You're also going to hear about the headwinds facing the entire media environment. Media is changing really quickly. You're going to hear some of the details about that. CNN still is a valuable asset because of what it does, because of that important information that it delivers. But there are really big challenges that it faces. And you're going to hear that for that reason, almost any amount of punitive damages, and even your verdict right now, will serve as a real punishment. And I'm not coming here to tell you that what you all have done should be the end. You've decided that punitive damages are warranted, so I'm not going to tell you that some number isn't warranted. But I am going to tell you that your judgment has an effect.
All right, here's the situation. CNN's lawyers are practically begging the jury not to hit them with punitive damages. They're like, please, no more. Don't punish us any further. And the reason they're so worried is that punitive damages are usually way higher than the initial amount awarded to the person suing. In this case, the Navy veteran, Zachary Young, is already getting $5 million for the damage done to his reputation. But the punitive damages meant to punish CNN for their conduct could be much higher. We're talking $10 million, $20 million, maybe even $50 million or more. Who knows? It could get so big, it might even threaten CNN's future. The lawyers are arguing that these damages could hurt CNN's ability to report the news. But honestly, if this means they'd stop putting out fake or misleading stories, maybe it's not such a bad thing. It's cases like this that make it clear. These networks should be held accountable for spreading misinformation and damaging people's lives. At the end of the day, it's good to see some accountability here. If these lawsuits make media outlets think twice before running with unverified or biased stories, it could actually lead to better, more honest reporting. What do you think about all this?